In 2006, my father bought an old house in a quiet small town near Salem, Massachusetts. He said the house had history, unique architecture, and was reasonably priced. For me, a slightly introverted teenager, moving to a strange place, a house that felt a little scary from the first glance, was a real challenge. The house was large, made of old wood, with tall, narrow windows, and an attic that looked dark and mysterious. My bedroom was on the second floor, quite spacious, with a window overlooking the old garden behind. Even during the day, this room felt a bit gloomy, and sometimes, I felt an unexplainable cold draft in a certain corner. However, I tried to get used to it, decorating the room to make it my safe space. The first few nights in the new house were difficult to sleep. The creaking of the floors, the wind whistling through cracks, everything was unfamiliar. But the real nightmare began on a moonlit night, when the silver moonlight shone into the room through the window. After getting ready for bed, I turned off the light. The room plunged into darkness, with only the faint moonlight and a little light filtering in from the hallway. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I looked towards the foot of the bed, and I saw her, sitting at the foot of my bed, a woman. Long black hair, obscuring most of her face. She was wearing a simple, dark dress, looking old and worn. She sat there, silent, motionless, facing away from me, as if looking at the wall at the end of the room. My whole body froze in terror. My heart pounded wildly in my chest. I didn't dare move, didn't dare breathe deeply. My rational mind screamed that it was just an illusion, the shadow of furniture under the moonlight. But a deep part of me knew it wasn't true. It was a person, a woman, sitting right at the foot of my bed in the darkness. I gathered all my strength, reaching a trembling hand towards the bedside lamp switch on the nightstand. My fingers fumbled for the switch. Finally, I managed to turn on the light. The sudden yellow light illuminated the room. I immediately looked towards the foot of the bed. No one was there, only the slightly wrinkled blanket and the familiar empty space. I gasped for air, cold sweat breaking out. I sat up in bed, staring at the spot where she had been sitting, trying to find a logical explanation. But there was no explanation, only sheer terror. That night, I didn't dare turn off the light again. The first nightmare in the new house had begun. Seeing the woman at the foot of the bed was not a one-time occurrence. It happened again, almost every night, especially on moonlit nights, or when the room was completely dark. As soon as I turned off the light to sleep, she would be there, sitting silently at the foot of the bed, her black hair hiding her face. Like a living shadow, I tried changing my sleeping position, turning my head towards the foot of the bed, but it was the same. As soon as I closed my eyes and opened them in the dark, I saw her. Her presence was undeniable. Along with those sightings came dreams. Strange, vivid, and terrifying dreams. In my dreams, I often found myself in this house, but it looked darker, older, and felt cold and desolate. And the woman with black hair was always there. She no longer just sat still. She would stand up, move towards me. In the dreams, I heard her voice, a low, slightly hoarse voice, but with a strange pull, a terrifying gentleness. She would say unclear things at first, as if telling a sad story. Then, the message became clearer. She wanted me to come with her. "Don't stay here anymore, my child," her voice whispered in the dreams. "This place is cold, come with me. I will take you away from this world." She would reach out a hand, a pale, slender hand, trying to grasp mine in the dream. The feeling was icy and horrifyingly real. I would often wake up from these dreams with a choked scream in my throat. Drenched in cold sweat, my heart pounding like a drum. The feeling of being pulled away, of being drawn into another world, still lingered. I was afraid to go to bed, afraid of the dark, and most afraid of the thought of that woman. She wasn't just in my room. She had invaded my mind, my dreams. I tried talking to my father again. I told him in more detail about what I saw and what I dreamt. My father was a very practical man. He listened patiently, but his eyes were full of worry. Not about what I was saying, but about my condition. He said I was probably stressed from moving, from the new environment, and advised me to see a therapist. He checked my room multiple times, installed more nightlights, did everything he could to make me feel safer. But he didn't believe in ghosts. His skepticism made me feel isolated with my fear. Even though my father didn't believe me, the woman with black hair continued to appear every night when I turned off the light. Her presence grew stronger and stronger. She was no longer just a blurry shadow. Her shape was clearer. I could see the texture of her dress spread on the floor. See the curve of her shoulder under the fabric. Her shadow also no longer appeared only at the foot of the bed when the light was off. I started catching glimpses of a tall, thin shadow, long black hair, in other parts of the house in the evening, gliding down the hallway as I walked towards my room, standing silently in a dark corner of the living room, only for a second, then vanishing. These shadows always seemed to be moving towards my bedroom. Sounds also began to appear, not just in dreams but when I was awake. A very soft rustling sound, like fabric gliding over a wooden floor. A sigh, mournful, echoing from somewhere in the room. Sometimes, I heard a very faint sobbing sound, echoing from outside the bedroom door. The dreams of being taken away became more haunting. The scenes in the dreams became more terrifying. Sometimes a dark forest, sometimes a cramped, cold room. The woman's voice in the dreams became both enticing and frightening, repeatedly whispering the message, "Come with me." I would wake up in the morning feeling utterly exhausted, as if during the night, my soul had had to fight or follow her to some terrifying place. I started fearing my room, fearing my bed. It was no longer a safe space, but a trap. A portal that something was using to reach me. I knew that all of this was definitely connected to the history of the house. Even though my father didn't believe in ghosts, I decided to find out for myself. I started researching the history of this old house, asking the oldest neighbors, searching online about the house address, looking for old newspaper articles about any unusual events that had happened here. The search was quite difficult, but I did find some information. This house was hundreds of years old, and had belonged to many owners. There was an old story, vaguely told, about a woman who lived in my very bedroom decades ago, perhaps in the early 20th century. Her name was Martha, name changed. She lived alone after her husband died young. Martha was a quiet woman, and after her husband's death, she became increasingly withdrawn, rarely interacting with the outside world. And eventually, she died in that very room from illness and weakness, with no family members by her side. Her death was very lonely and sad. What sent chills down my spine were the rumors accompanying Martha's story. Some said that before Martha passed away, she would often stare out the bedroom window, as if waiting for someone to come and pick her up. And after she died, people would sometimes catch a glimpse of a woman's figure in the window of that room. The story of Martha, her loneliness and death in my own room, it perfectly matched what I was experiencing. That woman with black hair. Perhaps it was Martha's spirit. She had died a lonely death. trapped in this room. And perhaps, she saw in me youth, vitality, and wanted me to go with her, to escape her eternal imprisonment in this house. My research into Martha seemed to provoke her spirit further. The disturbances in the house became more intense. The rustling, the sighs turned into moans. Unintelligible muttering. The dark shadow moved faster. And sometimes, I caught a glimpse of her pale hand touching the bedroom door. As if trying to open it. The haunting reached its peak. And Martha's intention was now too clear. She wanted me. No longer just in dreams. She wanted to pull me into her world. The world of loneliness and death. The nights after learning about Martha were pure hell. Even when I tried to keep a light on, the feeling of her presence at the foot of the bed remained heavy and cold. I heard her shallow breathing more clearly. Right beneath the blanket, the dreams were no longer invitations. They were terrifying attempts to drag me away. I dreamt I was being dragged across the floor in a dark, dirty room. Martha's icy hand gripping my ankle tightly. She no longer spoke enticing words. Only repeated, "Come with me. Come with me." Then, the haunting escalated to a physical level. While lying in bed, I felt a strange weight pressing down on the foot of the bed. As if someone was sitting there. This feeling was accompanied by a terrible coldness radiating from that spot. My blanket was pulled gently at the foot of the bed, as if someone was trying to lift it up. One night, after I had just turned off the light, I saw Martha sitting at the foot of the bed. This time, she wasn't facing away from me. She turned to face me. Her face was pale, gaunt, her deep-set eyes staring straight at me in the darkness. Long black hair hung down on either side of her face. Her lips moved, though no sound came out. But I knew she was saying, "Come with me." Then, her hand reached out. A pale, slender hand, with long, icy fingers, slowly reached towards me, trying to touch my leg. The sheer terror paralyzed me. I could only lie there, watching that ghostly hand approach, while her voice echoed in my mind, "Come with me. Come away from this world." The moment Martha's hand touched my skin, the bone-chilling cold, like touching ice, that feeling broke my paralysis. A wave of sheer panic erupted. I screamed, my whole body jolting, curling up, trying to avoid that hand. I heard an angry growl from the foot of the bed. The sound of frantic rustling as she seemed to try to climb onto the bed or pull me down. The bed shook violently. I thrashed in my blanket, trying to kick out at something at the foot of the bed. In the midst of that struggle, I screamed for my father. "Dad, Dad, help me." My scream shattered the silence of the house. Perhaps the scream startled her. Or perhaps my resistance was more than her spirit could bear at that moment. Suddenly, the coldness vanished. The sounds stopped. The shaking ceased. I lay there, gasping for breath, trembling. In the darkness, a few seconds later, my father ran into the room. Turning on the light, he saw me huddled in bed, drenched in sweat, sobbing uncontrollably. He hugged me, trying to comfort me. He looked around the room, under the bed, but saw nothing unusual. He still thought I had a nightmare or was having a panic attack. But I knew it wasn't a dream. The feeling of that icy hand still lingered on my skin. From that night on, I never slept alone in that room again. My father eventually had to admit something was wrong, even if he didn't outright say it was ghosts. He installed extra locks, a security system, and left the hallway light on all night. But I know, Martha is still there. Her spirit is trapped in the house. In that room, she is lonely, suffering, and wants someone to go with her. She targeted me, even though I no longer sleep in that room. The feeling of being watched, the sudden coldness, and the dreams of being pulled away still appear occasionally. The image of the woman with black hair sitting at the foot of the bed when the light is off, her eyes looking at me in the darkness, will haunt me for the rest of my life. That house, even though my father bought it and tried to fix it up, still holds the secret of Martha's lonely death. And she is still there, waiting in the darkness, perhaps still hoping to find someone to take her away from her lonely world. From that cold room, this story is true. It is what I experienced in the scary house my father bought. It taught me that some pain and isolation can hold a soul captive, turning a place of rest into a prison, and make them yearn to go with someone else. If the story of the woman at the foot of the bed sent chills down your spine, if you believe in true horror, souls trapped by loneliness and despair, and houses holding terrifying secrets, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for the next videos. There are many other horrifying secrets waiting to be told.